Okay, so I'm here with Victoria Munoz and Dan Holmes. And you knew Adam's mother, Nancy. Is that right?
Yes.
What was she like as a person, or what respect did you know her?
She's really a very happy person. Very well put together, very excited about life generally.
Yeah, and did you know Adam at all, or did you know Ryan?
I didn't know the rest of her family. I just knew her from hanging out sometimes. I knew she, used to go to Boston quite a bit. We were just saying, and she liked the Red Sox.
What did she work at?
You probably have seen this woman before, showing up on the spotlights and TV cameras, being interviewed by the biggest news channels of the American mainstream media during various false flag events with mass murder of people, and giving a scripted version of the facts that make them look like random killing rampages. In some cases she appears in 2 different places and 2 different times of the same event, often identified with different names and always giving key testimonies either as a real-time eyewitness, or as an acquaintance of the subjects directly involved in the event.
Right across from us, and it was just a huge explosion, and there's just debris everywhere.
A big, huge explosion while we were having lunch, and everybody ran for the doors and windows, and we were sheltered under tables.
I believe it on Nichols Ave down here. It was like a ton of gunshots, and then like boom, boom, like 3 big bangs. But it looks like they were working their way this way and this way over here. So I don't know if they cornered them over here or not.
A man is in custody in Albuquerque, New Mexico, accused of stabbing people in church during Sunday Mass. Witnesses say the man jumped over several pews and stabbed church members in the choir area just as Mass was ending.
He was looking at our lead soloist, and I just remember seeing him hurtle over the pews, hurtle over people, and run towards us. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is
Definitely this lady is in the businesses of false flag events and inside jobs. There are no doubts about that.
SWAT vehicles driving up and down the street. Now we understand that the vehicle is somewhere in this area with bullet holes in it. We did see a person being taken into custody. We also heard of an officer down in the area when the shots were fired. You can see a lot of police activity out here, many of the intersections, and you can see this area right there. You've got vehicles in there, guns drawn, officers pointing in a direction. The issue is we have yet to see that car. We have yet to see that vehicle that they've been chasing. There's that SWAT vehicle, so we're going to follow him in. Usually in these situations we can be a lot lower and we can identify these areas a lot better. Right now, because of the flight restriction, because the officers from the Sheriff's Department don't want us injured, don't want us to be interfering in their investigation, and right now there might be the apprehension of this suspect. Right now they're basically keeping us at a distance. I think there may have been some wires crossed out here. This might be the vehicle they've been talking about right there with the door open. It may not have been an SUV at all. And nope, they're passing that up. They're going by that one, so that's probably not the car they've been talking about. We're going to keep an eye on this vehicle right here that's going to be making the approach to that SUV. If you have any other information for us, maybe you might be hearing something a little different. We're hearing on the scanner, officer down, so we're definitely going to keep an eye out right now. We're looking in the neighborhood. We have yet to see that vehicle that they're talking about.
Do you see well, there's another, we saw so many vehicles.
Right.
Are they all in this area, Stu?
We gotta go in orbit. I have it behind a tree. I'm sorry, this is such a fluid situation right now. I'm working with our pilot. We can't make those quick moves that we're used to out here because of the fact that we are so high. Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely a suspect down. I'm not sure if we're going to want to put that on television right now. There's that SUV, definitely bullet ridden. I understand this is on Richardson. Richardson's the name of the street out here in the San Bernardino area. Officers still coming out in numbers out here. You see some officers there and a large amount of officers right here. Now this obviously related to that shooting earlier this afternoon where 14 people lost their lives. So you can see that vehicle right now heavily riddled with bullets. Doesn't, if anything that I can report to the people out there, doesn't seem to have California plates on it. These might be dealer plates on the front, but they definitely do not look like California plates. I do know that there is a person down. I don't want to show that on television at the corner of the screen on the street. I would not say that that's an officer, because they would be definitely be taking that, doing their best to get that person to safety. I would guess that that's going to be a suspect. Right now you can see officers working their way down this one street. We did hear the helicopter talking earlier on. Had a suspect running southbound. This direction right here is a little bit more northbound. It's a very fluid situation. We're going to keep an eye on it, and we're going to see what we can see.
California, the FBI has recovered no items linked to its investigation on that terror attack. CNN correspondent Ana Cabrera is with me now. So, Ana, have investigators given up on finding that missing hard drive?
No, Fred, they are still hoping to find the missing hard drive. That seems to be a crucial part of their investigation. However, we are told, according to my colleague Evan Perez, talking to law enforcement investigators who confirmed that they just didn't find it in the lake. They are still trying to get some of the data that was on that hard drive by working with internet service providers who keep records of internet activity linked to specific IP addresses that they can trace them back to the killer. So that is one option in terms of trying to put together the killer's digital footprint, Fred.
All right, so let's now focus on the female shooter, Tashfeen Malik. The New York Times reporting that she posted on social media that she supported jihad and wanted to take part in it. And U.S. Background checks, according to the New York Times reporting, did not pick up on that because the protocol doesn't include checking on social media. What more are you learning about that scenario?
Law enforcement officials have told CNN that Malik made it through at least 3 background checks or security screenings prior to getting her visa, and there simply were no red flags even as she went into the interviews with the U.S. consulate. And so that is why she was able to come to the U.S. without being questioned about jihadist leanings, and again, without having her social media account looked at, because it just wasn't part of the process for this fiancé visa. But according to the New York Times, now in retrospect, as investigators are going back and trying to get more information about these killers and who they may have been communicating with, New York Times is reporting that American law enforcement officials have found out in the open social media postings in which she says she supports jihad and that she wants to participate in it. And in fact, according to the New York Times, she made no effort to hide these views. Now, again, everything is 2020 when you look back. In hindsight, law enforcement officials have told CNN that in the past few months, they've started looking at social media as part of the screening process for people who are applying to get visas from particular countries, but it just wasn't happening at the time when Malik applied for her visa and then ultimately came into the U.S. in July of 2014, Fred.
FBI divers wrapped up a 3-day search of a California lake where authorities suspect a couple inspired by ISIS may have dumped evidence linked to the massacre of 14 people, an official said on Sunday, adding the team retrieved some objects. The search at the lake in a public park 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers, north of the site of the December 2nd shooting at a regional center in San Bernardino, began on Thursday after reports the suspects were spotted nearby either before or after the attack. ABC News and other news organizations had reported that the divers at San Bernardino Lake were looking for a computer hard drive that belonged to the married couple, said Rizwan Farouk, 28, and Tashfeen Malik, 29. But FBI spokeswoman Laura Miller declined on Sunday to describe the objects or say whether they appeared to be connected to the mass shooting. We have not commented on the items, or whether they are case-related, due to the ongoing investigation, Miller said, responding to a media report the objects retrieved in the search were not tied to the crimes under investigation. Divers tend to find all sorts of items in public lakes, she said, and any objects found will be analyzed for evidentiary value in this case.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
And we are coming on the air right now to address a security threat in Los Angeles this morning. The Los Angeles schools have been closed today after a bomb threat was called in several schools at around 5 a.m. Pacific time this morning. The police were calling the superintendent who made the decision to close schools for the day. On the scene right now in Los Angeles, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. Very fluid scene here. The entirety of the LA Unified School District has been closed. Nearly 700,000 students, second biggest school district in the country. We're hearing reports that bomb threats, not one, but multiple bomb threats were called into schools. Now, out of an abundance of caution, the entirety of the schools are being closed. Families are asked not to send their kids to school if they've been dropped off or being picked up. Dozens and dozens of buses have been ordered by dispatchers to turn around, drop the kids off if they are en route, and if they're not en route, to stay put. So the threat is credible enough to be taken seriously, but apparently it is not that serious that tactical alert has been issued, so we're not seeing SWAT teams rushing to schools or anything like that. But one thing that we are going to see today, George, is that the entirety of the school district, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, are going to be checked by the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Office thoroughly to make sure that the threat was in fact not credible. We're hearing that bombs and other packages were the threat, either left at schools or placed there, not exactly clear. But that is one thing that the LAPD and the Sheriff's Office is going to have to work out through the remainder of the day.
An electronic threat was transmitted into the schools. I want to go to our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross. And Brian, it does appear that this threat was targeted specifically at the schools, not any other targets in the Los Angeles area.
That's right, George. Talking to senior law enforcement officials in Los Angeles, they say they do not regard this as serious. They've not put the LAPD on a tactical alert, as Matt Gutman reported. But there have been a series of threats throughout the Los Angeles area. It is a city on edge in the wake of the San Bernardino attacks. And as we know, the high school in San Bernardino was found, photos of it were found on the phone of Syed Farouk, and was considered a possible follow-on target for him. So from the point of view of the Los Angeles school system, there was ample reason to take this action. The police officials tell us, George, this was a decision made solely by the superintendent of schools.
And he just gave a press conference where he announced that decision. Look at our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. But Pierre, there is so much concern coming out of San Bernardino that this could have been part of a wider plot.
Well, law enforcement officials simply are not taking any chances. Senior law enforcement officials tell me that the federal government is seeking additional information about precisely why the LAPD and the school system took this particular position. Their guidance is that, again, a threat was phoned in of some sort. The federal authorities will help them sort through this. But, George, as you mentioned, we're talking about the threat environment right now. The attacks in San Bernardino came on the heels of what happened in Paris. There was great concern about the potential for copycat attacks. Also, we're looking at the anniversary of those Newtown killings at that school system in Connecticut a few years ago. So law enforcement simply is not going to take any kind of chance, particularly with a threat involving children.
Not right now. And President Obama also addressed the ISIS threat at the Pentagon yesterday. Everyone on the highest alert. Pierre Thomas, thanks very much. We're going to continue to monitor this all through the day. For now, let's go back to our regular programming. For many of you on the West Coast, that's Good Morning America.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Phone is ringing. Oh my God.